So we are continuing in this wonderful series of Kunti Maharani's prayer. Actually, the depth of her prayer is very difficult to fathom for conditioned souls like us. Because if you see this particular prayer where Kunti Maharani is praying that Vipada Santu Tasaswat Tatra Tatra Jagat Guru Bhavato Darshanam Yatsyad Apunar Bhava Darshanam. We come before the Lord, even if we are devotees, we fold our hands, close our eyes, and we ask for benediction. We ask for prosperity. We ask for the well-being of our near and dear ones. We never ask for calamities. For various reasons, we never ask for calamities because we are scared. What will happen if calamities come in my life? Who prays to the Lord coming to the temple that I want calamities? Rather, when calamities come, people come to the Lord saying that remove those calamities. Pretty unusual. Kunti Maharani is telling Vipadah Santu Tasaswat Tatra Tatra Jagat Guru Bhavato Darshanam Yatsyad Apunar Bhava Darshanam. She is asking, let there be calamities again and again. Vipadah Santu Tasaswat. The word Saswat is again and again. Tatra Tatra Jagat Guru Bhavato Darshanam Yatsyad Apunar Bhava Darshanam. Why she is asking that again and again, let there be calamities? Very interestingly, the reason why she is asking, I wish that all those calamities would happen again and again, so that we could see you again and again. Bhavato darshanam yatsyad. Because what happens if we see you? For seeing you means that we will no longer see repeated births and deaths. There is a choice that we have. We can see the repeated birth and death, or we can see the Lord. People who don't want the calamity and are looking for prosperity without Krishna are forced to see the repeated births and deaths. Who are enamored and engrossed in this material world, thinking that this place is permanent place, it's a nice place, I can enjoy here. They are forced to see, under the influence of time, Kala, the repeated births and deaths. Whereas for the devotees who might be seeing some dangers and who might be seeing some miseries, but it is actually a way of Krishna to make us realize that this material world is a temporary place and it is dukkhalayam, and it is meant for us to develop an attachment to Krishna. And that is how when somebody sees Krishna, he forgoes this forcing of time or material nature to see the repeated births and deaths. So this translation, if we divide, there are three things which Kunti Maharani is praying in this verse. Vipada Santu Tasaswat Tatra Tatra Jagat Guru Bhavatam Darshanam Yatsyad Bhavato Darshanam Yatsyad Napunar Bhava Darshanam. The word when it comes before any word in Sanskrit, it becomes no. Apunar Bhava Darshanam. Punar Bhava Darshanam. So Bhava is this repetition of birth and death, and Punar Bhava Darshanam is someone who is forced to enter into the cycle of birth and death, and is not to enter into the cycle of birth and death. Apunar Bhava Darshanam. If we have the darshan of the Lord, Bhavato Darshanam Yatsyad Napunar Bhava Darshanam. So our prayer is, I wish that all those calamities would happen again and again. Vipada Santu Tasaswat. Saswat is eternally, repeatedly. Those calamities, which calamities? Those calamities that she has mentioned in the previous verse. Vishad Mahagne Purushada Darshanat. I wish that all those calamities, the word tah refers to all those calamities. I wish that all those calamities would happen again and again. Saswat, I wish, again and again is Sashwat. I wish that all those calamities happen again and again, so that we could see you again and again. Bhavato darshanam yatsyat. So I can see you again and again. For seeing you means that we will no longer see repeated births and deaths. Napunar bhava darshanam. Actually, the purport, Prabhupada brings out some of the very powerful, fine points in life. Most people in this conditioned, in this material world, they are bewildered when there are miseries and difficulties, bodily pains or anything, mind. And the other problem is because of the big false ego inside the heart, the solution also is not accepted because they think they're in control of their life. They know what to do, what not to, and they don't need anybody's advice. That is why the message of the scriptures also sometimes doesn't penetrate. So we have to be so much eternally grateful for a pure devotee who can remove the layers of ignorance by their pure words, which emanates, which are non-different from Krishna. Bhagavatam, yesterday we were seeing one verse, Idam Bhagavatam Namam Puranam Brahma Samhitam. This is non-different from the Lord. It has the potency to remove the ignorance layers in our life completely. But unfortunately, when it comes to receiving the message, when it comes to reading, there is a lot of lethargy, there is a lot of inertia, there is not a lot of conviction. Or when it comes to even hearing, because of our false ego, there are so many biases in our mind, so many things which are going, I know what he is going to speak, I know how he speaks. So it prevents us to allow us to get transformed. The message of Bhagavatam, which can bring the transformation, also remains away from us because of the false ego. So that's why these purports and these translations, when we see them minutely, observantly, not as a ritual, just it's a class, somehow we have to get rid of it, get over, and then done with it. That is a very mechanical way of looking at things. But when we see them closely, we can see so many gems are there which Prabhupada is revealing, which is applicable for me. And unfortunate, my precarious situation is my false ego is so huge, doesn't allow me to hear. So what happens is, when there is lack of respect for Bhagavatam or for the process which is given by the pure devotees, it is very detrimental. How many times somebody can say that we should hear carefully, we should read carefully. Prabhupada is saying that we should spend time in reading his books scrutinizingly. But when it comes to action, we feel it very difficult. That difficulty only puts us back in advancing in our spiritual life. So if you see the purport very carefully, beautiful purport. There are 3 paragraphs and there are multiple points which Prabhupada mentions in each of these purports, each of these paragraphs. First thing is, generally the distressed, the needy, the intelligent and the inquisitive who have performed some pious activities worship or begin to worship the Lord. Actually, if you see around people in this world, they're mostly distressed. Everybody is distressed. But when it comes to accepting what is the solution or what needs to be done, they don't understand that they should take shelter of the Lord, with whom they have got eternal, permanent relationship. And He is our biggest well-wisher. Suhridam sarva bhutanam. Yesterday's class Prabhupada was mentioning Bhuktaram Yagyadapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam Gyantvamam Santim Archati. One can become peaceful. But people do not know. And they lack pious activities. This is a very significant thing. Chaturvidha bhajante mam ye jana sukritino Arjuna arto artharthir jigyansu jnanir cha bhartarsava. Chaturvidha, there are 4 kinds of people who come to the Lord. But one common thing amongst these 4 people is they have done some pious activities. If there is no pious activity, then when distresses come, they will get atheistic. They will think, why there is no Lord, there is nothing who is in control of this world, and I don't need to surrender to anyone, I can do it myself. Or they blame people around them, they blame situations. They don't develop that mood of surrender. But generally, as Prabhupada is writing, the distressed, the needy, the distressed is Artho. Who's the needy? Artharthi. The intelligent, Jigyansu. Jnani, and the inquisitive, Jigyansu. So Artho, Artharthi, Jnani and Jigyansu, who have performed some pious activities, Sukirtina, worship or begin to worship the Lord. They come to the Lord. Others who are thriving on misdeeds only, regardless of status, cannot approach the Supreme due to being misled by the illusory energy. The potency of illusory energy is so strong that there are miseries which we go through, there are difficulties which we go through, bringing up children, um, appearing for competitive exams, or taking care of the family. These are all very difficult things, not easy things. And when we are trying to, that too, we, because of the covering of illusory energy, there is this constant comparison with others. Oh, his son is doing so good. What about my son? What will I say? What will I show to the world if my son is not doing better than his son? Or if my car is a smaller car than his car. There is a constant comparison because of the illusory energy, and there is a constant competition so that I can excel over the other one. I can show how better I am. But the resources are scarce, and Krishna himself says this is dukkhalayam asasvatam. They only aggravate our situation. They only make our life worse. And we are caught up in this, yet we don't realize that we should look for a solution, because the illusory energy makes us forget those difficult situations or the calamities. Difficult calamities is not something like a toothache, not something like I'm having pain in my knee or something today. It's a bigger problems, and each one of us, we go through them. But the covering energy of the Lord is so powerful, so strong, this curtain, it makes us forget those things, and we again get engaged and busy trying different ways and means how I can stay happy and be enjoy my life in this material world. I should earn money, a lot of money in my bank account, and that money will assure that I'll enjoy in future. Therefore, for a pious person, if there is some calamity, there is no other alternative than to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Constantly remembering the lotus feet of the Lord means preparing for liberation from birth and death. Yesterday I was telling the most important thing that we should remember, which the Vedic instruction says, Smartavyam satatam Vishnu, Vismartavyam na jatuchit. Very important. Smartavyam satatam Vishnu, Vismartavyam na jatuchit. Whatever other rules, regulations, do's, vidhi, nishedha, whatever is there, do's and don'ts, are meant to bring us to the state where we are able to remember the Lord constantly. Satatam smartavyam satatam Vishnu, vismartavyam na jatuchit. We are always able to remember Krishna, and we are never forgetting Krishna. Material world, which is covered by this energy of the Lord, is designed, orchestrated to make us forget Krishna. Make fully engaged, engrossed. I don't need God. I'm happy without God. I forget. Even for devotees, it's a very bewildering place. It makes us feel we are in control of our life, and we don't need any gods. Vismartabhyam, always there is forgetfulness. But when we come in association of devotees, when we come in association of the scriptures, when we come in association of anything spiritual, it reminds us to remember the Lord. Smartavyam satatam Vishnu. And constant remembering the lotus feet of the Lord means preparing for liberation from birth and death. We've been doing those Kartik meditation, and that verse that we were meditating on was Etavan yoga sankhya bhyam swadharma parinishthaya janma labha parapumsan ante narayana smriti. Ante narayana smriti. If one is able to remember the Lord at the time of death, that is considered to be the highest gain. You may have made so much, billions of dollars, you made fortune for yourself, your family, big status, big prestige, some CEO, this, that. It's of no use unless we are able to remember the Lord at the time. Etavan yoga sankhya bhyams swadharma parinishthaya janma labha parapumsan. Para labha. This is the highest gain. Ante narayana smriti. Krishna also in Bhagavad Gita says, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam manusmara yuddhecha. Sarveshu kaleshu. In all circumstances, in all situations, we should remember the Lord, including at the time of fighting. That is what he is telling to Arjuna, including doing our duties. But for us, even to sit in the temple and be before the Lord and remember the Lord also doesn't happen, because we are disturbed. क्या करना है इसके बाद, next क्या, next क्या, what next, what's going to happen. That prevents us to remain mindful, which is a very important thing. Every single activity which Prabhupada has given, the spiritual activity, is meant to purify, provided we participate in that in the whole spirit. If it becomes, even if it is a kirtan, if we meditate on the meanings, the same kirtan every day can give us newer and newer meanings. Is that reality? But when we come samsara dhavanala, something we sing or we don't sing, or we are thinking something else, we are looking at someone else, something else is going on in mind, or somehow I should take some photographs or go back, we are missing out on it. We are not allowing the process to transform us. We're not being part of it because of so many conditionings in our mind, in our body, in our false ego, which prevents us to to go through this process properly. Therefore, even though there are so-called calamities, they are welcome because they give us an opportunity to remember the Lord, which means liberation. There is a very nice lecture which Prabhupada has given, and I thought it is very appropriate to understand how should we see calamities or difficulties in our life. The world is meant to be miserable as it is dukkhalayam asasvatam. These are, see, you buy a product from any particular manufacturer or owner. Let's say you buy a ThinkPad, and the ThinkPad website mentions that these are the characteristics of this product. Some whatever Windows 11, Windows 11, whatever, and 64 GB RAM, God knows what all specifications. All those things are mentioned. They are the best person to tell what this product is all about. The creator of this material world is telling that this world is meant to be miserable, as it is dukkhalayam asasvatam. Krishna himself is telling this is dukkhalayam asasvatam. Dukkhalayam is miserable, and somebody says, no, I have never seen any miseries. Asasvatam, this is temporary. Imagine it, all the devotees have a comfortable life with no miseries. Then the attachment for this material world will grow more stronger. To think that we will have good time in this world as a devotee is illusion, as it can never be. But since we are performing sadhana bhakti, we should gradually come to the understanding that this place is not for us. And if we really want to have a happy life, then we should aspire for the spiritual abode of the Lord, perform 100% bhakti to Lord and get out from here. But devotional service is so sweet that even in this material condition and suffering, we are still happy, as bhakti gives us the power to understand that we are suffering, and this suffering is given to us by Lord personally to get detached from the material world. And Lord Hari, who steals away our misfortune, makes us fortunate by giving us an opportunity to accept and understand this misery and purifies us from within. Very powerful statement. Devotional service is so sweet that even in this material condition and suffering, we are still happy, as bhakti gives us the power to understand that we are suffering. Otherwise, people don't even understand that they are suffering. There's no cognizance, acknowledgement, acceptance, or there is no sense of this feeling that I'm going through this place is a miserable place. What is going on? Why am I suffering? That also doesn't come. Bhakti gives us the power to understand that we are suffering. And this suffering is given to us by Lord personally to get detached from this material world. Why there is suffering? Suffering happens because there is strong attachment to this material world. We will see that in a few moments. I'll share one verse which Bhagavatam talks about how we are attached to 8 different things in our life. And those attachment is the cause of our biggest misery. Strong attachment. And how pure devotees develop this detachment, like that coconut example which Prabhupada gives. The coconut is dry inside. Then you can, if you shake it, you can hear that the coconut is making that noise. But if it is not dry and it is raw, or if it is not dry, then you can hear the water. So staying inside this material world, one can still remain detached, like the dry coconut, and be just aloof, and it is possible. We will see that. And what are those strong attachments? That also we will see. By taking the misery, by devotional service is so sweet that even in this material, so Prabhupada is saying, um, bhakti gives us the power to understand that we are suffering, and this suffering is given to us by Lord personally to get detached from this material world. First to get detached from this material world, and Lord Hari, who steals away our misfortune, makes us fortunate by giving us an opportunity to accept and understand this misery and purifies us from within. So he's actually giving us this misery to make us fortunate, to give us an opportunity to accept and understand this misery and purifies from within. By taking the misery on us in a positive attitude, we become more stronger, and also the miseries give us an opportunity to think of the Lord more like Queen Kunti. By taking the misery on us in a positive attitude, we become more strong. That's or something we like, by taking away those things which are impediments to our progress in the path of bhakti. We will see a little later where Kunti Maharani will pray, Sneha Pasam Imam Chindi, Dridheshu Vrishneshu, Pandasu Vrishneshu. So Sneha Pasam Imam Chindi, the prayer is, I want to sever this attachment, this ties of attachment. Sometimes there is a false illusion which gets created where we think that with our family we can live happily. If every family member of ours is somehow or other devotee, I can be happy. Kunti Maharani's prayers, if we see from her father's side, from her husband side, like from Pandavas, great devotees of the Lord. Vrishnis, they were also great devotees. But she's asking, sever this tie. Very interesting to understand what is it, why she is praying. Even before we go then, this is the prayer which Bhagavatam talks about, which are the 8 things that we are usually attached to, and how our activities are usually centered around accelerating or improving or enhancing these 8 things in life. Atma Jaya Sutagara Pasu Dravina Bandhusu Rajye Chavikale Nityam Viruddham Mamata Jaho. Atma sometimes refers to our soul, sometimes it refers to mind, and sometimes it refers to body. And in this case, it is body, Atma. First attachment is to our body. Bodily pain, bodily comfort, bodily this thing, bodily needs, bodily demands, kya khaun, where will I eat, what will I eat, how this food is good, this food is not good. Atma, attachment to the body. Then comes Jaya. Jaya is wife or husband. Atma Jaya Sutta. Sutta is children. Agara. Agara is our house. Atma Jaya Sutta Agara. Attachment to house is very strong attachment. Atma Jaya Sutta Agara Pasu. Pasu is, Prabhupada translates as horse or elephants, which used to be used for commuting. Now that can be changed to, let's say, horsepower. I mean, you have some vehicles. This has got this much of mileage, this much of power. So Pasu. Dravina. Dravina is our wealth. Where am I investing? What will I get in return? When will I come? When will that mature? What will happen to my future? Who will take care of my money? How can I spend this? Atma Jaya Sutagara Pasu Dravina. How many are over? 1, 2. Atma Jaya Sutta Agara 4. Pasu is 5. Dravina is 6. Bandhusu. Bandhusu is all our family members and relatives, friends, relatives. Rajye. Rajye is kingdom, but Rajye is actually our career, or business, or whatever we are doing. Attachment to that. So this is how it becomes 8. Chavikale Nityam Viruddham Mamatam Jaho. Maharaj Parikshit, as a result of his wholehearted attraction for Lord Krishna, was able to give up all deep-rooted affection for his personal body, his wife, his children, his palace, his animals, like horses and elephants, his treasury house, his friends and relatives, and his undisputed kingdom. This attachment is what binds us in this material world. And the materialistic people they've got deep attachment to all these 8 things. That is why when there is any change to any of these things, any problem which is actually deep-rooted in the bodily concept of life, we become disturbed, or there is fear. Why people fear death? Because death is the time when all these 8 attachments are taken away. Very painful that time. All of a sudden, if you have strong attachments to all of those things and it is taken away, it's extremely painful. So that is why here it is mentioned, constant remembrance of the lotus feet of the Lord means preparing from liberation from birth and death. Therefore, even though there are so-called calamities, they are welcome because they give us an opportunity to remember the Lord, which means liberation. The remembrance of the Lord is so powerful. I mean, we don't know how powerful it is. If we can mold our life, if we can design our life, if we follow the instructions of our spiritual master who has given how to lead our life, remembrance of the Lord is possible. It's not that it is guaranteed, but it is possible. But even there also, if we have slackness, if we are not serious, then this becomes more and more difficult. Then Prabhupada goes on to speak about this verse, which is from the famous verse of Bhagavatam. One who has taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, which are accepted as the most suitable boat for crossing the ocean of nescience, can achieve liberation as easily as one leaps over the holes made by the hooves of a calf. Such persons are meant to reside in the abode of the Lord, and they have nothing to do with a place where there is danger in every step. Padam padam yad vipadam. Very famous verse. Brahma's prayer. Samashritaya padapallava plabam mahat padam punya yasho murare. Bhavam budhir vatsa padam param padam 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 yad vipadat natesham. In every step in this material world there is danger. Every step. But somebody who has taken the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, which is compared to a strong boat, this ocean of nations, this ocean of ignorance, the ocean of the cycle of birth and death, shrinks to the size of the calf's hoof print. A calf hoof print, how much it is? Very small. When it walks with that small feet, whatever the puddle it creates on a rainy day, that much of water, this ocean shrinks. That is the power of taking the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Sometimes people ask, what does it mean to take the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord? Should I go and embrace, should I tightly hug that lotus feet of the Lord? No. Taking the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord means following his instructions. Krishna is telling, Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam braja aham tvam sarva papebhya mokshayisyami ma sucha. What prevents us to do that? One is our lack of knowledge, our false ego, and third is our attachment. Deep attachment doesn't allow us. We think we will live happily ever after, permanently with all my family members, relatives, in my house, in this beautiful place called material world, which is such a big fallacy. And the last paragraph of this purport, Prabhupada brings again very beautiful points. The material world is certified by the Lord in the Bhagavad Gita as a dangerous place full of calamities. Less intelligent persons prepare plans to adjust to those calamities without knowing that the nature of the place is itself full of calamities. Less intelligent persons are preparing plans to adjust to those calamities. Somehow, if I can make some arrangement, some adjustment, something, it's after all not such a bad thing. I can make some plans without knowing that the nature of this place is itself full of calamities. They have no information of the abode of the Lord, which is full of bliss and without trace of calamity. The duty of the sane person, therefore, is to be undisturbed by worldly calamities, which are sure to happen in all circumstances. Suffering all sorts of unavoidable misfortunes, one should make progress in spiritual realization, because that is the mission of human life. This is a powerful statement by Prabhupada. Suffering all sorts of unavoidable misfortunes, one should make progress in spiritual realization, because that is the mission of human life. I should realize, no, this is not a permanent place. This is not a place where I can be happy, no matter how grand plans I have. After 10 years, I will retire, I'll have this much of money, I'll invest, I'll get returns, I will use it for my children's settlement, then I'll have money to enjoy my life. It's not going to work, all these plans, because this place is a place of calamities. So what is the mission of human life? One should make progress in spiritual realization. That is the mission of human life. The spirit soul is transcendental to all material calamities. Therefore, the so-called calamities are called false. This we will talk little later. The point that I want to mention, a few days back I traveled in this airlines called Spirit Airlines. They have recently, done some innovation and renovation to their interior of the flight, where you get this kind of seats which look very good the moment you enter into this. And the front seats, they are actually not 3 in numbers but 2 in numbers, so they've got extra space. This is a low-cost airline, so charges are very low so that you get attracted. Come, आ जाओ, कम पैसे में यहाँ से वहाँ जा सकते हो. Then you also fall for it and you come and you go inside. You see the seats are looking very nice. But I'll tell you how the struggle for existence begins the moment you sit even in this place. What happens is, these are so designed that there is no pushback. The sit doesn't go back. You sit there in one position for the duration of your journey. And the person who is sitting in the middle seat, I realized this time when I was going, right? So person who is sitting in the middle seat, whoever it is, and for me, somebody who was sitting in the middle seat, he was a very smart person. He was having some AirPods and he was watching something. And what he was trying to do, his elbow, his hand was kept on the armrest, which is shared by the 2 people. So he has kept it. So when he keeps his arm on that armrest, the other person who's sitting on this side cannot keep. And subtly, unknowingly, but deliberately, there is a struggle. So I'm also trying to push him a little bit, and he's also trying to push, right? And then if the plane is shaking or something, he does a little bit, so my hand goes away. So I'm also sitting like this. But ultimately, I thought I shouldn't give up. Then I am also putting it over there. It's all called struggle for existence. You don't need to go far away. Even in that small place, with cramped space, whatever, and there is a promise of enjoyment. I can go fly. There is struggle for existence. This material world is created in that way. And we are busy trying to make adjustments this way, that way, and I can be happy. I can push him, I can do something, and so that my life will be better. But it is not possible. Very interestingly, Prabhupada says, today the whole world thinks that this is the best place to live, and let us develop all facilities for our material enjoyment. But it is hard for a materialist to believe that he is suffering. It is hard for him to believe that he is suffering. It is only a privilege for a devotee who can clearly see that he is suffering and the whole world is suffering. This is only possible by Krishna and his pure devotee's mercy. Otherwise, we will also be enamored by Maya's promise of enjoyment. This is a promise of enjoyment with all that glitters of this material world. Remember, it is a promise of enjoyment, but not guaranteed enjoyment, though it looks like a guaranteed one, but it is just like a andha kupam or a blind well. If we fall for it, we will hit the rocks below. Very powerful statements. One needs just little bit of contemplation, sit and go through these purports. As I said, the process is so powerful, it can transform. I have exactly 5 minutes to stop. I want to share something, last one thing, which is very powerful, which I thought, it struck me like a thunderbolt. In the word-to-word meaning for this particular word darshanam, Prabhupada is writing meeting. It is not seeing. Bhavato darshanam yatsyad apunar bhava darshanam. And Prabhupada is writing meeting. And it's a very powerful word. Why I thought it is a powerful word, and why, how beautifully Prabhupada brings these things, and which we probably might have missed it unless we pay very close attention. Seeing is something which is one-sided. I'm seeing an object. I'm seeing somebody. That person may see, may not see. Meeting involves mutual reciprocation. When I meet someone, I talk with them, I ask questions, I convey my feelings, or they also reciprocate accordingly. When we go to take the darshan of the Lord, when we go to take the darshan of Krishna, the deities in the temples, he also reciprocates according to our level of surrender, according to our level of devotion. If our level of devotion is only so much that we still think that this is a stone, this is a metal, or this is some kind of wood, reciprocation is also like that. The darshan it will not be effective. It will end up in seeing. So he will reciprocate depending upon what is there in my core of my heart. He is a person standing there, and he can actually reciprocate with us. He can answer our prayers. He can talk to us. He can give us that courage. This is what is the meaning of the word meeting. Meeting implies that we're accepting him as a person who's full of feelings, who's fully compassionate, who's full of love, and he's eagerly waiting when he can take us back. But we don't have any feelings. We just go and stand there. Then what is it? Actually, in one place, Prabhupada says there are 4 things which are very difficult to realize. How many things? First thing is to realize that Krishna and Krishna's names are non-different. Abhinnatvam nama naminam. Very difficult to realize. Extremely difficult. How can you? I'm just chanting Hare Krishna, and you are saying Krishna is personally present? Yes. Krishna dances on our tongue when we are chanting. If we are attentive and we are hearing, we are paying attention, Krishna is personally present. People don't understand this. That's why taking up to this process of chanting becomes very, very difficult. First thing, that Krishna and Krishna's names are non-different. Second thing is, the deity of the Lord is non-different from Krishna. How can you say the deity of the Lord is non-different from Krishna? I know, I have seen these deities where some stone somewhere and one person has carved, and now you have brought it, you did some prana pratishtha, and you say that the deity is present, the Lord is present here. Very difficult to understand. But it is non-different. And the third thing is, the dham of the Lord is non-different from Krishna. So you go to some place like Vrindavan now, you say that Krishna used to steal butter, cowherd boys, cowherd men, but you see now pigs, you see some buffaloes and some big buildings. Where is Krishna? Where is Vrindavan? Where is that same place where Krishna used to do those pastimes? Because our materialistic vision, the darshan, doesn't allow us to see that this is not different from the Lord. And the fourth and the most important thing is Sakshat Dharitvena. Spiritual master is non-different from Krishna. He has to be worshipped as good as God. We think he is just ordinary human being, came like us, had some material body, and he'll go. But his instructions, they are from spiritual abode. Those instructions can cut those deep-rooted ignorances in our heart, but very difficult to realize. Fifth thing, if I can add, it is in conjunction with our Gaudiya Vaishnava, this thing, following the authorities' instructions. This is coming from Prabhupada directly. We don't have faith in that. So our life is chaotic. If we have that faith, this is a directory of management which Prabhupada has established. This is his body. ISKCON is his body. And he has created his structure. And this, when we follow that structure, we are actually following him. We don't have faith. So the struggle continues. Anyway, the word darshanam is very, very powerful, which Prabhupada is mentioning as meeting. If you pay attention, it's already 9. I'll just take this one slide and close here. There are 2 places in Brahma when he is praying to Krishna, when he does this tapasya, when the Lord came and he said, I am ready to give you any benediction. That time he mentions, actually having my darshan is the biggest benediction that you can get. And in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 2nd verse, Prabhupada is writing in the purport that Dhritarashtra was blind from birth. Unfortunately, he was also bereft of spiritual vision. Not just materially blind, spiritually also blind. Many of us are actually spiritually blind. We were spiritually blind. He knew very well that his sons were equally blind in the matter of religion, and he was sure that they could never reach an understanding with the Pandavas, who were all pious since birth. Actually, we should somehow pray that the spiritual blindness goes and we are able to see things as they are by the mercy of Prabhupada or Krishna. That's why the word darshanam is in the word meaning. Prabhupada puts it as meeting, not seeing. These are some of the important points of this verse. Any question anybody has? Meeting the Lord. Bhavato darshanam yatsyat. So she's talking about meeting the Lord who's a person. So what happens is we end up understanding it as seeing. And seeing is always one-sided. I am seeing this, but that person, whether it is seeing or not, we don't know. Meeting is mutual, this thing is there. This is what I thought in that word meaning Prabhupada is given. We'll stop here and continue to see this Kunti Maharani's wonderful prayers. Very, very inspiring. One last thought. When Prabhupada had this paralysis stroke in the Memorial Day 1967, when ISKCON had just started, Prabhupada had asked his disciples to do three things. Just three things. One, have a painting of Narasimha Dev and keep it next to his bed. Second, chant Hare Krishna mantra and Narasimha prayers. Third, chant the prayers of Kunti Maharani. Even at the early days, Prabhupada had recorded Kunti Maharani's prayers. Very powerful actually. These are wisdom prayers, not some simple sentiments of a lady who doesn't know what it is. So the more we meditate, the more we spend time with this, the more we will benefit from this. Srila Prabhupada ki Nitai Gaur Premanand.